95.
You're listening to Scars Survivor Hour on Power 95, bringing awareness, hope, and healing for survivors of child sexual abuse.
Welcome, everyone, to our Scars Survivor Hour radio show. I'm Debbie Ray Rivers, the Executive Director of SCARS, Saving Children and Revealing Secrets, a charity whose mission is to reduce the risk of child sexual abuse in our Bermuda community. I'm also a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and a mom of 2 survivors. You know, Survivor Hour is another platform to spread awareness and to be an advocate and a voice for those who have been sexually molested as well as their affected families. Our mission is to reduce the risk. That's what we need to do because sexual abuse is preventable. As a mom of 2 survivors, I must confess that my lack of education and prevention knowledge contributed to my children being at risk 25 years ago. We as caregivers of children must be equipped with knowledge of how to best protect our little children. We ourselves, as parents and guardians and caregivers of children, we play a major role in child protection. Arming ourselves with the tools on prevention helps us be aware of the dangers that can exist and situations that can be avoided. Today, we're going to discuss what we need to do during the holidays that can help reduce the risk of your little one being harmed and scarred from sexual violation. We're not only doing this show because it's December, and we did actually, and I must apologize to all the listeners, we missed the show last week. We had a survivor that was going to come on and unfortunately had to change the date or change the time. She wasn't able to come on to the show last Wednesday, so I apologize for all those that tuned in and then found out that we weren't going to be on air. So I do apologize. But we're doing this show not only because it's our December show, but also because in a recent session, training session, I heard a testimony from one of our participants, and it really resonated with me. So much so that I invited her to share with us her close call experience. That's what it was. She had a close call when she was a little girl. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us in the studio. But I did ask her to send me a note on with her words of what happened when she was a little girl. I didn't want to just go from memory. But she has written what happened, and we're going to share that with you today. Dr. Hancock is in the studio with me, and she and I will discuss some of the red flag behaviors and some tips in keeping your child safe throughout the holidays and beyond. I would like to remind those that are joining us, of course, about our broadcasting rules. This is a very sensitive topic, child sexual abuse. When calling into the show, we just ask our callers, do not mention your name or a perpetrator's name. You know, remember, we have no way of confirming your testimony. We would love you to share, but no names mentioned, please. This show is also not meant for personal attack. It's meant to educate and empower and advocate for the precious children in this country. We are not experts in the law. We can answer questions about surviving childhood sexual abuse because I am somebody with a lived experience. We can talk about how trauma affects victims of child sexual abuse because Dr. Hancock is an expert in that area. But absolutely no attack on any lawyer, judge, or magistrate. If you're a survivor and you wish to be a guest on the show, please call the SCARS office 297-2277, or you can email me, Debbie, D-E-B-I, at scars.bm. All guest survivors will be pre-interviewed, and if there is a guest survivor, if they do come on the show and the perpetrator who sexually molested them was convicted, it will be their choice to provide those details. If anyone has had a close call or an experience, with this, please feel free to call in and share. We learn from people's stories, from childhood stories. It's really important. The number to call again is 292-9595. Dr. Hancock, let's start with me sharing this story.
Great.
Is that okay with somebody who shared this with me, and it really resonated with me? And this is what she wrote me. When I was a young girl, probably around 9 or 10 years old, on a night that my parents had a house party, I was in my bedroom asleep in my bed. When I woke to find one of my father's friends entering into my bedroom and closing the door behind him. I asked him, "Why are you in my room?" He said he came to check on me. I asked him, "Does my daddy know you're in my room? I'm going to tell my daddy that you came in my room." And then he decided to leave my room. She writes, this is an example of what can actually happen right in our own homes when we have company. Or if the bathroom is on the other part of the house or upstairs. Maybe a cookout where most people are outside and a child might be inside watching TV or playing or reading, whatever. We need to explain to our children, she said, how to know danger, how nobody is to make you feel unsafe or to touch your private parts. It is not all right. And if need be, children are to kick, scream, and run. Even lessons of self-defense is applicable. And I love that, right?
Absolutely.
Like giving your child those lessons at a young age, right?
Yeah.
And she writes, always accompany your children to public bathrooms. Parents, we need to always keep our eyes open and constantly check on our children. We want them to be happy, secure, and to preserve their innocence. And she says, thank you for your time. How true is that, Dr. Hancock?
Absolutely. That is actually a really good example because, it's a party, right? It's a family party of people that the parents trust and maybe even family members. And so the family probably would never suspect that any one of their party members would do anything to harm or to put their family at risk. So that's actually a good example of, don't ever just close your eyes or turn a blind eye to anybody in your house when it comes to being exposed to your children.
Yeah. I mean, we'd hate to think that a friend would do that.
For
but
sure.
We can't be blinded by reality. This is a real life testimony from someone. I asked her, I said, do you think he wasn't safe? And she said, oh, yes. I sensed it immediately. He was not safe at all. And she said, I feel like God was with me for sure. Those were her words. I also asked her, did you tell your daddy the next day? Because I was curious about that, right? And she said, no way. She said, this was her words, I knew my dad would have beat that man up.
Wow.
Nobody messed with his girls.
Wow.
So she didn't tell her daddy. She was scared of what her daddy was going to do. But she also knew that if she told her daddy, he would do something.
Right.
I mean, first of all, and hopefully she's listening, but I just applaud you and I thank you for sharing your story because our stories are so important. This is how we learn. And we've really had trouble with people sharing their stories since we've been doing these shows over the last few months. Nobody calls me. The phone isn't ringing. And I understand that. This is really a tough topic and we're a small community and people might recognize somebody's voice or, they don't want to share. And we get that, right? But our stories are important.
Well, and it's not so much that we're saying go out saying, don't trust any person in your life, but it's just don't be blind, don't think for a minute that no one is capable of doing something.
Exactly. I mean, Christmas is a time for family and friends, right?
Family, friends, alcohol, parties, all of the above.
Yeah, pay attention. Have a little family plan, I would say, right? I mean, I didn't do any of this, but, before going to that family or that friend's party, have a plan with your partner or your spouse or another family member who's attending the party with you, right? Decide who will be the designated one to check in with the kids every now and then.
Right. Yeah.
It's not being paranoid. It's being wise and protective, right? Because we also know that peer-to-peer abuse is common.
Correct.
Right? I've heard so many stories over the years about, cousin-on-cousin situations, and many of them are exploring, especially children who haven't been provided with body safety information or boundaries. Children's hormones rage, right, at certain times, and children will lure other children. Like I'll let you play with my device if you do this sexual act to me, right? And the child who is not equipped with boundaries or body safety, or perhaps they've even been sexually abused themselves, may do that on another child or harm another child. But I would say during these family parties, these festivities, just watch for behaviors. Check in with children every now and then. Somebody designated to go upstairs, see if the children are okay. Watch for behaviors around other adults, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just really important that you just don't get too comfortable being out of your child's vision for an extended period of time, even if you're with family.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much or to have the child check in with you too. You can create a method of how to keep in contact with your child through the event.
Yeah. And that's important. And it's hard, especially, people drinking and having fun, you might lose, time, not, forget, to do that. So that's why I thought have a designated person who will remember, hey, listen, we got to go check on the kids every now and then, right? Even though the kids are in another room playing, go in there and make sure. I'll never forget a story I heard when I first started SCARS. And it was someone who said they were at a party and they went upstairs and all the children were playing in one room. And when she went over to the next room, there was an older child with a younger child, and the younger child looked really nervous and uncomfortable. And all she said was, I said to the older child, listen, come out of there, go play with the other kids. And she removed the younger child away from that situation. But she might have intervened something that could have been very dangerous for that little one.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is why it is important to go up there and check, or go, down the hallway and just make sure all the kids are okay. If you see, look for body language, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And you might notice a child looking uncomfortable, feeling fearful, especially feeling fearful when, I'm going to just say, Uncle Johnny comes over, right? Your child might want to be closer to you.
Yes.
When that creepy, forgive me, but that relative that makes your hair on the back of your neck stand up, your child might want to be closer to you. Don't brush that off as your child just being clingy.
Right.
Something else could be going on. Don't rule it out, in other words, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Look for any sudden changes in your child's behavior, tone of voice, as Debbie said, clingy behavior. Please don't brush that off as just them being needy.
No, exactly.
It's that unfortunately I think comes way too close to people's forefront is, oh, they're just being needy. Oh, just go play with the other kids. It's like, well, right now in that moment, is it going to be that big of a deal for you to comfort them?
Yeah, because that child might be thinking, if I tell them this, mom and dad might have to go home. They might not be able to stay and have fun at the party. This other person's going to get in trouble. They're thinking like a child. They're not thinking like an adult.
Well, and that first reaction from the adult is going to either shut them down or invite them to talk. And if they're shut down, once they shut down in that moment, they're not going to say anything going forward, because they're going to associate what has happened to them to the parent's reaction.
Right. That's a really good point. But we want to investigate without causing an alarm either,
sure,
right? So
for sure.
You don't want to be Miss Debbie paranoid. What's wrong? Something happening up there? Did someone touch you? Like, that's not even healthy either, right?
Don't do that.
And but ask some open-ended questions like, hey, sweetie, I notice every time Uncle Johnny comes over, and not, I'm just using a name, but, I notice every time, Auntie Debbie or anybody comes over, you seem nervous. It's okay to share if you want. My job is to protect you. If you're feeling nervous around someone, feel free to share that with me, because I love you and I want to make sure you're always safe.
Yep.
Right? Yep. But take a minute and go see what the children are doing upstairs or outside. If they're all on their devices playing games, I always say, at home, even if not around Christmas, but, kids are home, they might be on their devices all the time. Join in on those games every now and then.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Intervene. Watch situations that make your child uncomfortable and interrupt any behavior that seems appropriate, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, I think, we've talked before, and you had just kind of alluded to it, with joining in their game is, that's actually the foundation of how you get a child to disclose anything to you, is to bond.
Yeah.
You can't not bond. You can't not engage them. You can't not play with them, or show interest in their life and expect them to just all of a sudden disclose, what is scary information from them. They won't. They're less likely to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Your reaction to other things in life
Absolutely.
will be an indicator whether they can talk to you about these type of things. You know, but we always say, you know, especially with kids on their devices, you've got to know where they're going.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so important. But, you know, it's okay that grown-ups are having fun and celebrating the holidays. And it's the last thing on our minds as grown-ups partying is that there may be a child in the house who's experiencing some fear or being lured into a situation, right? I mean, we don't
Yep.
want to go there, but we just can't take our eyes off our children.
No, and this is, unfortunately, this is the time of year where we welcome so many people, regardless, even family members we may not get along with. You know, you're more likely to be at a family function where family members you may not get along with are attending as well.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, build that trust. Talk to your child like, listen, you know, if anybody at this party ever makes you feel uncomfortable, don't worry about ruining my time. I will stop whatever I'm doing. We'll get you to a safe place. We'll talk about what happened. It's okay to interrupt me.
Yeah, you can prep children before, you know, they may be excited before they go to a big family function or a big function with your friends. And, you know, it's very much okay to just, you know, kind of plant the seed of, you know, we're going to be going to a very big place, you know, there you may not know where the bathroom is or where certain rooms are. You're going to meet a lot of people. So you just prep them ahead of time,
Yeah.
almost to be cautious without saying it.
Yeah, exactly. And also kind of send the message that if they see one of their friends feeling nervous, to also they can come and share that with you, right?
Yeah.
Because there might be a child there whose parents haven't done a SCARS training or haven't communicated with their child about some of the risks and the fact that they can come and share
Yeah.
information if they're feeling uncomfortable. So if your children are old enough, share that with them. If you see one of your friends feeling nervous or, you know, in a room with another child or a grown up, you know, come and tell me. Come and tell us. We'd want to know that because our job is to make sure kids are always safe.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
And then the other thing during Christmas holidays is unwanted affection.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Right? Go give Uncle
The
Johnny,
epitome.
Auntie Debbie a hug. You know, I mean, I'm a hugger, and my family will tell you I can't get enough hugs from my great nieces and great nephews, and I love hugging. But I know they know that if they didn't want to give me a hug, they don't have to.
Right.
Right? Like,
And
it's
your
okay.
reaction isn't going to be punitive or condescending.
Or take it personally.
Right. Well, yeah.
Right?
And that's probably one of the biggest issues is, and I guess I want to make this very clear that, you know, as much as some people might perceive this as disrespectful,
Right.
it's not disrespectful if a child refuses to show you affection.
Yeah.
You know, and even if a child is unwilling to talk, you know, that doesn't mean the child is intentionally being rude and ignoring you. The child you can tell by a child in their body language whether they're shy or not,
Yes.
you know, or maybe something's happened to them. So as adults, you know, we have to be mature enough to realize that, you know, is it really, really that imperative that a child speaks to you
Yeah.
upon command?
Yeah, because they have to know they have some choices as well. That's really important, not to
Yeah.
force anything. But children need love. There's no
Yeah.
two ways about that. And you know, they need love from the people in their life.
And it's also the reaction, right? And so if a child doesn't talk or they don't show affection, you know, then, you know, there's maybe another way to show interest in them so that they you know, that they can feel more comfortable. Because again, they may be very, very shy and reserved and scared.
Yeah,
Just by their temperament.
yeah. Or even sensitive to touch,
Very. Yeah, that's true. That's
right?
true.
They might be sensitive to touch as well. So you know, be respectful when
So
it
we
comes
don't
to
want to take it personally if a child refuses to show you affection. When you say, "Here, come and give me a hug," and they are standoffish or don't want to, respect that. Engage them another way.
Yeah.
Ask them what their favorite color is.
Yeah.
You know, are they glad that Christmas is coming? You know, engage them.
How's school doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's there's other ways to do that rather than just then become angry and defensive and scolding.
Yeah, and the other thing is you want them to be able to say no when they're not with you.
Well, correct.
Because perpetrators, when I know this personally,
Mm-hmm.
perpetrators will watch when you force your children to give hugs and affection and they don't want to. That perpetrator, if that perpetrator's at that party and they see that, they'll use that when they get that child alone in an isolated situation. Say, if you don't come sit on my lap and give me a kiss, I'm going to tell your mommy. You're going to get in trouble. That's real life story. Because they watch the parents force them, and then perpetrators are really good and they're paying attention. They're watching the behaviors.
Which is, I guess, another point is even having that conversation with your children about affection, showing affection to other people.
Yeah.
And if you've already set up with your child the rule that if they don't feel comfortable, hugging Uncle Ben or anything like that, then then it's okay, and they can come and tell you.
Yeah.
But if the reaction is ambivalent because they don't know if mommy and daddy are actually going to be mad at me or not, then they may not know what to do.
When they're not with you,
Correct.
They may not know what to do because they think I better please my mommy and daddy, because a lot of children, that's what they do. They want to make their mom and dad and guardian and parents happy. That's what they want, right? Especially our really little ones, like, they just want to make sure some want to make sure they're doing everything right.
So when it comes to an isolated person threatening them, if they don't come up and hug them, that child already knows, even though they're going to still be a bit anxious. They already know what the rules are because our family has rules. Our family already has a method.
Yes. Yeah. Little safety method, little plan, right? It's so important, that conversation constantly with your child, because that's the best protection, is your relationship with your child.
Oh, absolutely.
Now let's talk about somebody who wears a red suit with a white beard. Santa Claus is so important, and children love Santa Claus. I want to put that right out there. And it's Christmas time, but never, ever, ever force your child to sit on the lap of Santa Claus if they don't want to. And I've seen it over and over again.
Yep, parents want that picture.
Yeah.
They want that picture.
Yeah, and it's sending a message to your child that they are to do whatever an adult tells them to do, and they cannot say no. That is the message when we force a child to sit on Santa Claus' lap.
A stranger's lap.
They don't know who this is. Somebody in a suit, right? And so,
Well, there's a difference too between seeing Santa Claus on TV and seeing him in person, and so if a child is scared to go up and talk to Santa, sit on Santa's lap, there's a reason for that, and they may not quite be ready to hit that level of reality.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen that. Kids screaming. I'm like, what?
And and back in the and back in the day, parents would take pictures and think it's funny and laugh and they had this proof of, oh, look at Billy when he was 3 sitting on the Santa's lap, or look at when he was 6 sitting on Santa's lap, he was bawling his eyes out.
What makes us happy about that? I mean, I can't figure that out. Your child is screaming his head off and you're okay with that, right? Like,
because you know why? Because in the minds of the parent, I'm going to say this up, in the minds of a parent, I'll quote, there is nothing to be afraid of.
oh yes.
Right? That
Yes.
famous internal quote in a parent's head.
Yes.
There is
yes.
nothing to be afraid of.
Yes, and a lot of it is just the way we were raised, right? I mean,
Right.
please, parents, if you've done this, don't feel guilty. Just go, you know what? I realize now that this was a risk. I mean, if we don't think that predators dress up as Santa, all I suggest you do is Google all the cases out there.
Yeah. And there's
it's a great place for them to hide.
There's a difference between pushing your child to persevere through something that is scary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But something that is actually good for them, that has a long-term benefit, that
Yes.
isn't going to further incite or amplify the anxiety.
Yes.
Versus a situation like this, is this really going to make or break this child's life if they sit on Santa's lap? Is this really going to have a long-term benefit for them?
Yeah.
It's not, it's how far do you want to push
Yeah.
situations like that?
Yeah. And they have to have some choices. We're
Yeah.
not saying it's bad. It's not to say that everyone who does it, who, dresses up in a Santa suit is a predator. Absolutely not.
no.
We have so many safe, wonderful Santas that love kids and love to see the joy on a child's face,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean, it's not to say that. But what we do have been saying is predators hide behind things like that.
Yep.
Where they know they can have access to children. You don't know, where their hands are going to go. Keep an eye on that. They'll hide behind places where they think nobody is going to even think about it. Whether that is a teacher, a coach, a camp counselor, a family friend, somebody who attends a church, they're going to look for those places where nobody would even think they could hide in, right? That
Yeah.
they would ever do that.
Yeah.
So
And that might be, it may not even be that particular person at the time. It may be a result of the familiar method of that person that's bringing back the memory of somebody else
right,
that maybe they haven't disclosed yet.
right,
So someone like like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or anybody that's playing a character
that children love.
that children love, can ignite some fears that just may
Yeah.
be there from
Yeah.
before.
And if your child told you before you went to see Santa, yes, I want to sit on Santa's lap, I'm so excited, and then you get there and they change their mind, that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Well, yeah,
Just because you drove them all the way into town or all the way wherever you went, and they told you they wanted to go, and then they changed their mind, guess what? They're allowed to change their mind.
They are. And like I said before, the biggest thing is the idea that children, the difference in their mind between reality and fiction, and fantasy, between fantasy and fiction and reality are two different things.
Yeah.
It can actually scare a child to bring something into reality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. That's a very good point, actually, right?
Yeah. So they can be excited to see Santa on TV and, hear their letter read and,
Yes.
all of that. But that doesn't mean that when they come face to face with
Yeah.
the situation, that they're going to just jump up and
Yeah.
want to sit on his
Yeah.
lap.
And the message you send to a child is, it's okay. You have choices.
Yeah.
Instead of I drove you all the way down. I mean, this is the old way, right? I drove you all the way down here, and
You're gonna sit on
you
his
took me
lap.
out of my house, and you're gonna sit on his lap, and no, we have to, give them respect. These little ones, because they'll grow up to understand that I have choices.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's good that we covered that. Now let's talk about camps, right?
Oh,
A lot
boy.
of parents sign up their children for camp, and they should. And children love camps, some children. But, and they parents need this because they have to work. And so you're trusting your children with with the Christmas camp. Some of the questions that we would suggest is, where are your safe policies? Can I see a copy of them, right? Have your counselors been SCARS certified?
Yeah.
Do they understand prevention? It's not only because you don't trust them. It's like you want, if a camp counselor notices something in a child or sees two children bullying each other, or you want to know that camp, those people working there are equipped to deal
Yep.
with some of these situations, right?
How old are the, because many times the camp counselors, the junior counselors are younger.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that either they have experience, they've also been SCAR certified, they've taken the training.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, 16 and 17-year-olds can do SCARS training, but they have to be accompanied by an adult. And the reason for that is in case there's a disclosure.
Right.
We want to know that somebody is with that 16 or 17-year-old that can help them if something they hear triggers them during the training. And so, but 16 and 17-year-olds are definitely allowed to be SCARS trained with an accompanying of an adult. the other thing I want to say is, if there's a 14 or 15-year-old helping helping at these camps, we would recommend, and we do recommend to the camps, to get the parents trained. Make it a requirement that the parents of the 15-year-old or 14-year-old come into the room, get SCAR certified, and share that information with their 14 and 15-year-old. In their language, in their way, right? Share with the children what's important, like never be alone in an isolated situation with a child at the camp. Don't give out your cell number to the camp, to the child at the camp. Don't be communicating with them online.
Nope.
You know, these are the things we teach in the training, and we want the parents of the 14 and 15-year-olds that are helping at the camp to pass that information on to their little ones, right? To their young ones, the 15 and 14-year-olds.
Yeah, and
13.
you know, when you're heading up a camp, you definitely also want to make sure that you also reinforce that information and relay that to the junior counselor. So I'm saying anybody under the age of 16, and making sure that they also know what the rules are.
Yes.
In regards to keeping children safe.
Yes. Have a policy on gift giving. You know, talk to them. Hey, if you're going to buy a Christmas gift to the children in the camp, everybody gets a gift. There's no favoritism. You don't just give a gift to two of the children. You give a gift to everyone. If you, talk to them about physical touch, forcing affection on the children you're working with, right?
Yeah, and sometimes, and this may or may not be possible, but, a lot of times in situations like camps and organizations, they don't have ever a one-on-one. There's always
Isolated.
Somebody else accompanying, whether it's another child or it's another grown-up or adult or old enough child that goes with.
Yeah.
So it's never one-on-one.
Yeah. Rule of 3.
Yep.
Right? A good rule of 3, going to the bathroom, especially with our little ones, have the rule of 3, have an anti-bullying policy, right? Like you intervene when you see a child bullying another child. We want to interrupt that behavior, find out what's going on, not in a punitive way, in front of the other kids, but just pull that other child aside. Like we've said before on these shows, maybe that little child's being bullied at home. Maybe the child is watching bullying in the home, copying the behavior at camp. You want to intervene, find out what's going on with that little one, why they're causing somebody else to feel uncomfortable, right?
Absolutely.
You want children to have that experience of, this was a really fun camp. Not to go to camp afraid of somebody in the camp that is bullying. I mean, that's not a good experience for children. And so you want to target the child who's bullying and find out what might be going on. So it's good for these camps to have these, to understand these type of situations, right? Make sure your counselors don't share their devices with the children at the camp. I have heard a situation, and a child was able to look at the counselor's device, and guess what they found on it? Pornography. Wow. So that child saw pornography. Wow. It wasn't child pornography, but it was something pornographic. That can be traumatizing to a little child attending a camp. So have a policy about cell phones. You cannot allow a child to share your cell phone with children. And I would also go as far as to say, and I could be wrong on this, but you can't use your cell phone while you're taking care of kids. If you're looking on social media and you're responsible for little children at your camp, you might miss something in 2 seconds. A child might fall. A child might get into trouble. Something could go on, and these, because kids, that's what they're doing. Let's be honest. Kids are on their devices and they're scrolling and they're talking to their friends. I get it, but when you're working, that device should be put down in a place where, unless there's an emergency, not be on your cell phone during camp time. I think
that should definitely be reinforced. I guess for the people that are heading up the camp. To put a policy in place for their workers on their cell phone, whether it's particularly for maybe the 16 to 18-year-olds, definitely maybe not having access to their cell phone unless they absolutely need it.
Yeah, I think that's necessary.
Where they have it kind of locked away until it's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is to protect the children. Remember, this is about the kids. We really have to make sure those little ones are protected and they're getting the attention that they deserve.
Well, and not to mention, and again, it's not to say that, again, that people have camp counselors going around that are potential perpetrators, but they have the option. They could take pictures with their cell phone.
Yeah.
Unwanted pictures.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and exactly right. But I would also recommend to parents share the policies with your child if they're old enough. Say, hey, just want to let you know at this camp, they're not allowed to give you their cell phone to look at. You know, at this camp, if you know, they can't take you to an isolated situation or touch you in your private. Nobody can do that to you. Just want to make sure you know that, and nobody can ask you to keep a secret.
If you want to go to the bathroom and it's far away, then make sure that you have, take a friend with you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think when we think about that word secret, I just can't tell you how many survivors have said, the person that harmed them told them it was a secret. Isn't it so important that we let our children know that if anyone asks you to keep a secret, I really want you to come and tell me. A surprise is different.
Secrets versus surprises are different. They may ignite and elicit the same kind of physiological emotion or the physiological reaction, but they're not the same thing.
Right.
And a child may not be able to differentiate because it feels the same.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, our training talks about that, the Darkness to Light Stewards of Children training. It talks about, a secret is attached sometimes to, Kevin McNeil says it on the video, like punitive. Mm-hmm. If I keep it, I'm going to get in trouble if I tell the secret. Whereas surprise is a nice thing. It's a happy thing, right?
Correct.
And so we really want to talk to our children about the difference between a secret and a surprise.
Yeah. Well, because perpetrators will make it sound like the secret is also something that's, bonded between the two of them.
Yes.
And make that child feel special.
Yes. Exactly. And if a child is really needing that self-esteem or they're feeling already not special for whatever reason, they just don't understand the danger, right?
No.
What they're hearing.
No, they're at the mercy of an adult or who's telling them to say nothing.
I also want to say it's good for these organizations to have behavior policies for children.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
I've heard, cases where children are hanging off the counselors, grabbing onto their leg or wanting to sit on their lap, and they're kind of, making a counselor actually almost feel uncomfortable because it's a little too much. So parents, talk to your children also about behaviors, and these organizations have behavior policies for kids, and explain that to the parents in advance. Our counselors are here to teach and empower, inspire. Please let your child know what the boundaries are with that as well.
Yep.
That's really important, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about screen time, right? Social media, online applications, these have really become the primary tool that predators use to identify, groom, and exploit children. We used to be afraid, Dr. Hancock, of our children being in a park all alone, right? Well, let me tell you, parents and guardians, you should be more worried about them being alone online.
Yep.
Trust me, the risk is greater.
Because it's easier.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
Easy access.
It is. Nobody's watching.
Nope.
Right? In a park, you risk somebody walking into the park. According to research and confirmed with all the survivor stories I've heard in doing this work, 90% of people who harm children are people we know, love, or trust. It's not stranger danger.
No.
And predators are getting to know kids online. Catfishing is real in this country and in other countries all over the world. Predators are posing as being, say, 10 years old, and they're really 25 years old. And they are luring children, asking them to send a naked photo, threaten to release it publicly, right? I mean, they're bribing children on their devices through the internet.
It's scary.
It really is. We really encourage our parents, especially in the holidays. They're not going to be in school. They might have some extra downtime. Guess where they'll probably be? Gaming
online.
Online, right?
And for parents, it allows you to get things done and get things done without your children needing something or wanting something, etc. But again, if you're not checking in or you're not involving them in other things outside of their devices, they become more the risk of them becoming a victim of a predator increases by the minute,
Yeah.
the longer they're on the
Yeah.
devices by themselves.
I mean, 30 years ago it was Barney, babysitting kids, right? And
Yeah.
now it's this little device. And I get it. I mean, as parents, we have so much on our plate. We have work, we have bills, we have Christmas, taking care of our kids, taking care of our, loved ones in our life. There's so much pressure on parents. We're just here to just share, just having safeguards in place. Download some apps that might keep your, that will keep your child safe.
Prevent them from going to certain areas.
Yeah, prevent them from going to certain websites. I can tell everyone out there that SCARS has a really great website in terms of resources. So if you go to scarsbermuda.com and you arrow over to the tab that says resources, scroll down to resources for parents. There are some great videos, websites that you can visit on parental control. Missingkids.org is one really good website, but they're all there. And, take a couple of minutes. I know you have busy lives, but take a couple of minutes and go on that page. That's free information for you. But know where your children are going. Know what social platforms they're visiting. Do your investigation, right? And your own research on the apps and the games. What safeguards are there in place? Read the reviews. That's really, really important. We talk about that in our training, right?
Yeah, and that way you know the lingo and you know what to look for and not look for if they are or are not where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, but know who they're communicating with. I'm telling you, this is danger. Speak to anybody in the cyber safety world. They'll tell you this is increasing, and it's a problem. Have some do's and don'ts before you give your child a tablet, right? We talk about it in our training. If they're using a headset, make sure they're in a common area where every now and then you walk by.
You can check it out.
You can hear what they're talking about, hear the conversation. You're not being pokey. You're not prying. You're protecting because we know there's danger out there. Maybe join in on the games every now and then. That's really important.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, for sure.
Know who they're talking to because you don't know. Watch your child's behavior.
Yes.
Are they acting secretive? Are they being evasive?
Absolutely. If they're purposely withholding information or becoming irritable easily, the minute that you jump in and check and see what they're doing, it's a red flag. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but that's usually a red flag.
Yeah. Don't scream. I know. Listen, I'm sitting here telling you, and I was like the biggest screamer in the world. But I wish I had all this information so many years ago. I would have done a better job. But, and I've apologized to my girls, trust me, many times. But, if you see them hiding their devices, these are some red flags. It's just time to start having some calm, open-ended conversations. I notice you doing this. I care about you. I love you. I want to make sure you're safe all the time. Is there something, that's scaring you? Because sometimes children are just really, really scared to tell a parent, somebody has made me send a naked picture and I don't know what to do.
Right. Yeah. After the fact. Yeah.
After the fact, right? Because they may be scared to tell someone. They may be self-blaming. Maybe they think they're blaming themselves. I caused this. And so they might be afraid to tell you, right?
Yeah. And the way to help them and the way to get things like that shut down is to get your child to be able to confide in you.
Yeah.
And you're not going to do that if you come with a very punitive, angry, aggressive approach.
Yeah, like a crazy Debbie, yelling or punishing or threatening or, I'm going to take your device away. It doesn't really work because then they're just going to hide or do it anyway,
Well, they definitely
right?
won't tell you anything, even if they believe that somebody else has done something wrong or they've done something wrong. They're not going to disclose anything to you.
No, that's true. Predators are great at targeting kids. I can tell you whose parents are not involved in their child's online life. So you really want to keep conversations going. Be the parent that says, listen, nothing's off limits.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can come and share anything with me.
Yeah. I expect you to make mistakes. I expect you to not know everything. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
To help, to guide you in the right direction so that you do your best not to make the same mistakes again.
Yeah. I mean, the number one deterrent is an adult who monitors their child's device.
Absolutely.
That really is the
Absolutely.
deterrent for
The
these online
presence-
predators.
Yep, the presence of a parent, just like many times, well, the presence of authority tends to deter bad behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. We really recommend you going on the website, scarsbermuda.com, go to the resources for parents. But I have to say, there's also great resources for youth serving organizations. Sample policies that you can put in place if you're going to have a camp, or sample wording you can add to your application form when hiring people to work at your camp. You want to know some of this information, and you want to be able to share with the people working at your organization what you expect.
Yes.
So that they're equipped. That's important for them.
Yeah.
All right, so
Sure.
let's talk about grooming techniques as we finish up, like how a predator will earn trust from an innocent child. And I've seen videos even from predators who will share with an interviewer what they did to groom their child, to groom a child.
To groom a child,
right?
yeah.
And I know the first thing they're going to do is obviously create an opportunity to be alone with that child.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Creating any part or any kind of role that they can play where it would be expected for them to have a child by themselves. So
Yeah.
it's not so there is no suspicion of their behavior,
Right. Right. Getting
It's-
close to the people in the child's life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That typically, I think, especially for people that are close or people that know the predator, or it's somebody that they do know, getting the parents on board
Yeah.
to trust them
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Pushing to
a gateway.
babysit.
That's
Yeah.
a gateway.
Yeah, babysitting is so important, and parents need babysitters. But anyone that pushes that button, if you're out and you're going to a party, a Christmas party with your partner or your spouse or your friends, and you have a child, maybe come home a little earlier than expected, right?
Yeah, come home a little earlier. Anybody that's a little too eager or that is quite persistent
Yeah. Yeah. And
is a
make-
red flag.
It is. And if you have older teens watching your kids, have some rules around that. Like, listen, it's best that only you are babysitting, not your boyfriend. Please make sure you're paying attention to my children while you're babysitting instead of on your device all night. Like, I know that's what teenagers do, but, I have some games ready for them to play with your child. Board games. Kids love board games, right?
Yeah, and you can gauge whether those things are going to happen by how that child interacts with your child in your presence.
Yeah.
If you can tell when a person is actually genuinely interested, in playing with your child,
Yeah.
appropriately.
Yeah. Now, unless the babysitter gets there and your child is asleep, that's one thing. But, bath your child yourself. But we're not saying no babysitting, because we can't have a distrusting society. That's not even healthy.
Right, correct.
But we just can do things in advance that can ensure their protection, right? As much as possible.
Yeah, we're just
as
saying,
much
like,
as possible.
don't take things for face value.
Right.
Just
Right.
it's more about just being more observant, more aware of how people interact with your children.
Yeah, yeah. Because we know what predators will do is they're going to earn the trust first. They're going to become that child's confidant. They're going to provide all the answers, the gifts. They're going to earn their confidence. They're going to be open to sexual questions. If their children don't have those questions at home, questions answered at home, they're going to push the boundary and say, I can answer that, right? And then
Yeah.
they're going to take it to another level. A lot of predators, I'm not talking about babysitters right now. We've moved on to just, move back to grooming techniques, what predators do.
Pushing the boundaries, the persistence, are just huge red flags.
Yeah, yeah. Anyone who's pushing to spend a large amount of time with pushing your child to spend a large amount of time
Yeah,
with
it's
them.
like almost over volunteering.
Yeah,
Too much time. I can take Susie to this function or this function.
I'm going to take them away on a trip with me. I need to go, whatever it is, and I'd love to take your child with me, and I'll be able to take up to Disney World or take, just pay attention to some of that. If it's someone in your life that you you trust, there's other people going with them, it's very different. But I've also heard of predators who took children on trips, right? And so you want to do your due diligence. But the most important thing that you can tell your child who's going on a trip with other adults or another adult is you can call me anytime.
Yep.
If Auntie Debbie is making you feel uncomfortable about anything, you call me.
Well, and the person and the person that's taking them away typically will have, if there's no red flag, they will have no problem having that
Exactly.
child call that parent at any given moment.
Exactly.
Because there's nothing to hide.
Exactly. They're going to say, feel free. They're going to want to say, hey, let's call mommy. And, and they're not going to be worried about a child telling,
No,
right?
because there's nothing to tell. If there's nothing,
Yeah.
there's nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. So let your child know they can tell you anything about anyone that ever makes them feel uncomfortable. You will not go crazy. You will not kill anyone. You will deal with it appropriately. You will protect them because they are your treasure. And you want them to always feel safe because you love them so much. Children really do need to know it. They need to feel it. And they need to hear it.
Over and over again.
Yeah, over and over again. So as we close, to all the parents and the guardians and the grandparents and godparents and all you loving adults who are responsible for children, pay close attention to your little ones over the holidays. Watch for behaviors that don't seem appropriate. It's not that difficult to figure out who children are comfortable around and who they aren't. Don't allow adults to cross boundaries of your little ones. Please intervene. Call out wrong behavior. Whether it's from a child who hasn't been taught boundaries or an adult who does not respect boundaries. Let these people know, you're on notice. You describe the behavior and you interrupt that behavior and you make sure that child is protected. And it's okay to do that in front of others. Because when we call out inappropriate behavior in front of others, that's actually good. It shows that person that you're aware, you're watching, and so are others, right?
Absolutely.
It definitely puts them on notice. Trust me. People who want to harm children, they don't want to be called out. They don't want to be reported.
It's a deterrent.
It is a deterrent, and you want to let them know I'm watching and I notice. And I'm not saying any of this is easy. It's not, but it is the right thing to do. Not all of us can say we had a close call, right? So many of us actually experienced child sexual abuse, and I'm so grateful for the lady out there who shared her story with us. That was a close call,
Yeah.
and we're grateful she shared her story.
And luckily, she was equipped with the tools to be able to fend off what could have happened.
Yes.
And unfortunately, not all kids have those protective factors within them or around them to be able to do that.
Yeah, because what predators will do, and I've heard this, and it just reminded me of another story, is they'll come in and put their finger to their mouth, and
Yeah.
they'll silence the child as soon
Yeah.
as they see the child, and a child who hasn't been, who's not bold or who might be shy
Or has been told to do whatever adults tell them to do.
exactly, they may not say anything.
Correct.
So I hope you're listening. My friend, you were bold, and
Yes,
I am
thank you.
glad. Thank you for sharing your story. I would love to have more of these stories. Like we're even wondering, like, is anybody listening out there to our show? Like I never get the calls, I never get the emails, and
Send
I
your
want
story in. Like you can be
Yeah.
anonymous. You know.
Absolutely. We want to know that what we're doing is impactful. We have no way of measuring this show, we'd like to continue in 2025.
Yep.
And if you think that we should, let us know, please. We really want to know.
Or even if there's a topic that you want us to address.
Yeah. To report a case of child sexual abuse, please call Child and Family Services Kids Line between 9 and 5, 278-9111. Bermuda Police Service at 211, or even their main line, 295-0011. or Crime Stoppers Bermuda Anonymous 24-hour hotline, 800-8477. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. God willing, our next Survivor Hour radio show will be Wednesday, January 8th at 1:15. On behalf of SCARS, Alicia,
Yes.
and I, we wish you a most joyful, peaceful, and safe holiday season.